Saram Billy.
Yes.
Two things. One is last week. Another thing I want to talk about something about meditation recently. I just realized. Just have to share with the group. Last week one, like we said, the self, the big self, right, does not judge, but evaluate, does not compare, does not seek security. Does it, hit us in, when we listen to this, we do not judge, but we always judge. But actually, your big self doesn't judge. Evaluate, we don't compare. According here, we don't seek security. I think we don't justify. I don't know. Right? Open to everyone, whether it's actually touch your heart or the meaning itself. Normally, because when you are more quiet, you are more observant, and then you only talk when it is necessary. While your charge is different, you will openly criticize or openly talk, I might talk the wrong thing. Sairam.
Sairam, thank you, Brother James. Anyone like to comment on what Brother James had shared? So I believe...
Sairam, brother, would you be
Yes.
able to... Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, it wasn't clear, the first and the second question.
Okay, Brother James.
What question is that you're talking about?
Can you repeat your question?
Oh, not question. Last week, you talked about the self, the Atma self, the big self in us, not the small self, the big self. The big self does not judge, but evaluate, does not compare, does not seek security. Normal people would judge, right? But if you are more on the big self side, you will rather, aware, conscious, and do not judge, but evaluate the situation, whether it's necessary to share anything good or important. My opinion now, And I think most mature wise people will normally do that. While normally common people, if the small self will always judge. So evaluate and judge are two different things.
Sairam, actually the big self is the witness consciousness, as Swami said. We only judge when we are not of body mind, but if we are of the big self, we don't do all that, judging and all those things. We are mainly just witnessing.
Yes, Sairam, I quite agree with Sister Jenny just now, because first we need to establish ourselves in the witness consciousness. And once you are established in the witness consciousness, meaning that whenever we are free, trying to find time to establish ourselves in that, in witnessing everything and being non-attached. But also, like what Brother James also mentioned, the biggest setback or the fallback which we will all experience is the limited self. And as we are moving towards this direction, it will be quite difficult for us to discern, because we are so used to performing actions, we are so used to saying something, we are so used to judging, we are so used to criticizing, we are so used to giving comments when people ask us. So in a day, throughout our entire day, we are so used to being so involved in the play till we forget there's one aspect of witnessing whatever is happening as well. So the judgment, criticism, just like what Brother James quite correctly mentioned, is the part of the limited self or the ego mind. And to be completely out of the ego mind it's a very difficult task. But moving forward, I think the more we establish ourselves in the witness consciousness, you are able to separate yourself from the limited self. So even if those thoughts come, even if those criticism come, just like Brother James mentioned, the person who does not say something does not mean that he does not experience the thought. It does not mean that he does not have those thoughts, the criticizing thoughts. But instead of reacting to those thoughts, he evaluated the situation and he just chose not to do anything. Then if I think one of the wonderful quotes we had during the recent silent retreat was, silence is a form of response as well. So keeping quiet does not mean that you refrain from speaking, but it means that you are responding in a more wise and more apt way. That's my opinion, Sarah.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Sabitan.
Just to add on to Brother Sabitan, when you say silent is also an answer, I mean, in real life experience, there are many times we need to be silent, especially if the other side is not won't listen to you, keep on arguing. So sometimes you meet these type of people, it's better to keep silent, because the more you talk, the more they argue, you know. So sometimes silence is the answer, and it actually works because it will actually take some time. The silence will make the other person to actually give no opportunity for him to continue to argue, you know, right? So you think it's right, then okay, just keep silent enough already, you know. I think this is one of the real life experience which is common.
Sister Jeannie Maharaj, do you want to say something or thought?
Shri Saram to everybody.
Sarah?
Thank you. A very interesting conversation going on here. I just add just this thought. When we see Brahman, we are free, and everything that moves and seen is a form of the same Atma. So yes, that is actually the big self. Saram.
Okay, thank you, sister. Okay, so otherwise, let's last week, Group 3 presented on the letter on the nature of the self. Okay, I think they presented halfway, and today Sister Jenny Boo will present the other half of the presentation.
Okay, Swami said, and on nature of the self, Swami said, and dear boys, the world of today is so full of people who are selfish, unloving, and unloved. The brand of atheism has become almost a religion. What is the self? It is the self that says not I. For if it says I, then it is the unreal self, since the real self has no thought of itself. The real self is the selfless self, the self that has no thought either of or for itself. It is the self that has forgotten itself because somehow it remembers itself only in others. It is the self that loves without the thought of self because love is self as affection. It is the self that seeks the truth without thought of self because quiet is the cessation of self from all worldliness. It is the self that is in wordless meditation because wordless meditation is the stopping of the mind through union with the divine. It is the self that does not judge but evaluates. It does not compare, does not seek security of any kind, does not see even itself. It is the self that has completely absorbed itself, and yet in a strange and mystical fashion, it is ever more itself, more complete and more real than it has ever been. This is the real self. God is love, love is selflessness, selflessness is the abolition of all sense of selfhood and separateness, all spurious identification with the isolative life of the counterfeit thing called self. Self is the separateness. Separateness is the denial of wholeness, holiness, God. The denial of God is godlessness, atheism. As can now be understood, atheism is not the denial of this or that religion or the denial of this or that concept of God. It is rather the denial of the life of love, which is the nature of God. It is the assertion of the life of the little self, which is the negation of the being of God. In short, real atheism is the denial of love and the assertion of selfishness. The Godward process called self-sacrifice is in its inmost essence love. For God is love, and love alone can lead to him. So the most godly act is the act of love, and most godless act is the act of non-love or hate. But hate, which is separateness, can arise only when there is selfishness or selffulness. Thus, it comes to pass that the most godless, loveless, atheistic act is the act of selfishness or selffulness. Love must be completely selfless to be Godward, to be divine. Its criterion must be the beloved first. Its technique must be your happiness, not mine. The way to happiness is the forgetting of oneself and the remembering of God, your Sai Krishna. With blessings and love, Sri Satya Sai. So this is the letter that Swami wrote to the boys. So Brother Billy, maybe I'll just read the 2 points to consider first. Okay.
Sure, sure.
First point is define a theist based on Swami's statement. Real atheism is the denial of love, the assertion of selfishness. Explore how it is a magnification of Swami's dictum, love is God, God is love. And the second point is, what is the way to happiness according to Swami? So our group, we extracted some points from Swami's letter, mainly on the self, about the self. So so we shall also share these points with you now. Okay. The self, the first point here is the self or the real self has no thought of itself. The selfless self has no thought either of or for itself. The self has forgotten itself because it remembers itself only in others. The self loves without the thought of self because love is self as affection. The self seeks the truth without thought of self because quiet is the cessation of self from all worldliness. The self is in wordless meditation because wordless meditation is the stopping of the mind through union with the divine. And the self does not judge but evaluates. The self does not compare, does not seek security of any kind, does not see even itself. The self has completely absorbed itself, and yet in a strange and mystical fashion, it is ever more itself, more complete and more real than it has ever been. Yeah, these were the points we extracted, and I personally feel that some of the points are very difficult to understand. So if anyone here can pick up any point here that you need, we need others to help us, please carry on.
Yes, yes. So as I mentioned just now, this particular letter is a very profound letter. So any thoughts that come to any of you, please to share your thoughts on this. I think when Swami said about the self here is the
big self,
the big self, the Atma.
the capital S self, yeah, the Atma, yeah,
Atma.
the witness consciousness.
Normally when we say he's an atheist, which means he say, okay, he's someone who doesn't believe in religion. But Swami has defined atheist as someone who does not believe in God at all. Is what they call.
Swami said these three things. The denial of God is atheism. Denial of the life of love, which is actually the nature of God, is also atheism, and the assertion of selfishness is atheism. So these are Swami's words. So how do we understand from here?
Yes,
anyone like to help? Later before we end, I have a very beautiful article from this website called Awakening Self, which actually helps us to understand better about this big S self. Yeah.
Yeah, just to go a bit deeper into I think the fifth one, the self seek the truth without thought of self. See this one? Let me see. Because quiet is the cessation of the self from all worldliness. Wait, it's not this one. Which one? Oh,
Yeah.
no, the number 3. The self has forgotten itself because it remembers itself only in others. This is something very strange. Maybe some
I
of you
agree.
can explain more detail.
I find this strange also.
Yeah, I think it's very profound because when we start believing that other person is me only, then what happens? We lose our identity, isn't it? So that's what it says. Self has forgotten itself because it remembers itself only in others. So thinking that we start first of all to lose our ego, it means that when we start loving and others and everything, then what happens? That we identify ourselves with others. There's nothing of mine remains. And that is what it says, that self has forgotten itself because it remembers itself only in others. It doesn't remember in itself, because then there's nothing which says that it is mine. Everything is mine, and that is what it says. Right.
Saira, I think they're talking about the universal consciousness, and the self identifies itself with, everyone else. We are all part of that whole, and that universal consciousness. I think the whole thing is all about universal consciousness, and that self identification is no longer there. The individual is forgotten. We see ourselves in everyone else. I think that's basically it.
Saram, now I realize the way to explain this is the self has forgotten itself. Why? Because there is only oneness. There is no two, right? It only remembers itself when there is other people coming in and awaken him. Because for him there is no two, all one. That's why there is nothing to remember or what, because it's all oneness, right? So self has forgotten itself. That's true, right? It remembers itself only in others. That means because of the oneness, the only thing when he remembers himself is when people approach him or awaken him into this world, rather than the consciousness itself. That's how I see it. Maybe Sambitan got some other idea?
I think the word others, it means the moment you say others, means there are two identity. But this others is written only to just say that from our own individual, we see other, like a father, mother, brother, all those things. So it is just to say that this others means you have no identity of yourself and you are mingled with others. Just like the electricity is there in the fan, in the electricity and everything, but it doesn't have its own identity. Maybe others people see that it's a fan, it's a light, it's a refrigerator, something like that. So this other is only for the worldly people to see. But when the self has forgotten itself, means it doesn't have its own existence, and it is expressing through others, which for the worldly people it is. So others have not a different meaning which should be taken, because others, when you say others, means you're identifying ourselves from the other. So it doesn't mean that this other is that other, but it is that when in our worldly things, Swami is saying that when you are as an individual start seeing in the other and you lose your identity, means you and he, the other person, becomes one. That's what I feel. So this other is have a different meaning in this sentence, right?
The whole thing is the Advaita philosophy of Adi Shankara. The whole thing is Advaita.
Yeah,
that's what it's all.
the oneness and
Saram, another point to be made is that consciousness is open to everything in the universe, and this consciousness is the self. We are that consciousness. Therefore, the body, thoughts, ideas are only objects in consciousness. And the best example that I've read, which brings this out, is that we've got to remember the screen is not part of the movie. You know, if we can grasp that, it uncomplicates and we get closer to understanding this. Sairam.
Because
Sairam.
further down the line, and it says the self does not compare, does not seek security of any kind, does not see even itself, does not see even itself. So, like Sister said about the screen, the cinema screen, I think there's some.
No, I think he said he doesn't see himself is because he's talking about the small self, It doesn't see his small self actually, right? You see, it remember itself, because he's the big self, is oneness, right? He forgotten itself already. There's no more the small self, only the big self. Then because he remember itself, he remember the small self only in the others. That means when there are others seeking his help or seeking his his blessing or something, then probably he only just come out. I understand somebody mentioned about when you are in the bliss, like even Buddha when he was enlightened, he also don't want to come out until I think God come in a form to awaken him that he need to help the world. Then he only came out. That's what a little bit I understand about Buddha itself. Because when you're in bliss, normally you don't want to eat and all that, So you won't even because you see everything as oneness. Unless somebody come to you, seek your advice and all that, then probably you go back to your small self so that you can explain to others. Side up.
Brother Sabitan has to say something.
Sairam. Sairam.
Sabitan, yeah. Saram, sister, yeah.
Go ahead, sister. Sister Rajesh.
Sairam, nature is also a self. We have violated the 5 elements. That's why all the disasters are happening. We have separated nature from us. That is what the love. The nature is love. That's why all these disasters, everything is happening. We have separated everything. So it's all the self, the whole universe. Sairam.
Sairam, in my opinion, what I feel is that Swami has said that he divided himself from himself to love himself, right? So it means that, like, let's say if I just ask this question, do you remember who you are? Do we actually, like, really, in reality, like, remember who we really are? Of course, we don't remember, right?
Yes.
But we are the self, right? So it means that the self has forgotten itself, meaning that we have forgotten ourselves. But because it only remembers itself, because it remembers itself only in others. So I think my interpretation of this statement is we have come a very long way from the time we divided ourselves to experience ourselves. And from an individual point, we cannot come to this realization. So that is what Swami emphasizes so much about service, because when we do seva, when we communicate with other people, when we help other people, that is when the self recognizes itself, remembers itself only in others during these activities where one self is in contact to another self. So that's one way to think. I don't think this is the only way to interpret this statement, but in my mind, this is how it is interpreted. Because we have had multiple past lives. We all do believe that we have multiple past lives. We have died so many times. We have been born so many times. We have committed so many kinds of sins. We have done all those whatever. Do we remember? We don't remember. So But are we the self? Yes, we are the self. So the self has forgotten itself, meaning we have forgotten ourselves, but it remembers itself only in others. When we are doing this satsang, when we talk to each other, we communicate with each other. Like what Professor Suresh always says, the feeling of wanting to attend the satsang, the feeling of not wanting to miss the satsang, the feeling that wanting to communicate, want to attend the Sai conference in Sri Lanka, wanting to speak with people, communicate with people. So this is how, when Swami divided himself to love himself. So we divided ourselves, and when we go to the conference or anything, when we see each other, we love ourselves. So this is what, in my understanding, this entire sentence means. And the sentence where Sister Jeannie mentioned, the self does not compare, does not seek security of any kind, does not see even itself. So if we just take this point and reflect on ourselves, if we are really in our current experience right now, in reality, okay, we compare and we seek security, okay, but when we establish ourselves in the witness consciousness, we do not compare, we do not seek security of any kind, and then we don't even see ourselves. So the last part, it does not even see itself. This part, I'm really not sure what does it mean. Does not even see itself, because if we practice the meditation neti, then the Advaitic meditation, as Auntie Chandrika mentioned just now, this is all the Advaitic way of describing the self. When we deny everything, so the first stage of neti is you deny all your thoughts. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. You keep on doing it. And then you realize the thought which is labeling, I'm not this, I'm not that, you're not even that.
Selfless.
Yes, correct. So then
Completely selfless.
Yes, correct. So that's why perhaps it does not see even itself. So that's how I interpret it, Sairam.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Sabita.
Yeah, that reminds me of a story told to me by one elderly uncle, highly evolved soul. He was telling me of his experience, where he saw a house on fire and he could hear cries coming from that cry of a child, and the fire was very strong. Without hesitation, he just rushed inside there and rescued that small boy out, So this is where he forgot about his small self, and he see the big self, I think he and the person who's crying, is one, and that gave him the what they call without hesitation. He ran into the fire just to save the small boy.
Yeah, that's what you say. That for a fear to happen, two things are required. One is mind, and second is time. So, as Brother Billy said, that he just heard the cry and he just went in, and he went in and rescued. But after the rescuing, maybe after 1 month or something, if he sits down, that man starts thinking, because the mind is there. So, oh my God, there was so much of fire, I could have got burned. What could have happened to me? And all those things, and fear comes. At the same time, there was no time, because he's not thinking of what time it is, what it is. But this time has come again here in his mind to think that, oh, this incident happened, I did it. But again, there was a fear. So if one of them also removed, or two of them removed, then the fear and this oneness comes in this time. And that is what the selflessness is, because when the time and mind doesn't exist, and that is where you become one with others. Because he forgot that whether it's a child or me, somebody has to, that identity has to be rescued, and he rushed in. That's the only thing he thought at that time, because there was no mind to think, and mind was busy rescuing. So there's no fear in that. And that's what he could do it. So these are two things which we have to think in our life, that when our mind is there, it will start pros and cons, how it happened, why should I do, who is there, and all those things. But at the dire moment, people just rush and help. This is what is the human essence of love is. That a man rescuing other, a man at the need of other, just spontaneous. It doesn't need to be told. It just needs to, but the need, he will not think that he's my enemy or he's a friend. He will just go and rush and help. So this is what is called is the loving of the self, because that time he's not seeing his outer character, that he's a friend or he's an enemy, he has done bad to me or something like that. Is the human nature of that consciousness which comes in and tries to help the other. So these are two things which is very important, that we have to think that if we can live in that environment, I think we'll be always in bliss, because there is no fear that what will happen to me, because the I and the body consciousness has lost its importance that time. Saira.
Thank you,
Hi,
brother.
brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure, sure.
Right, but I think we are battling with the word the small self and the big self. I often wondered whether we have any opportunity in our daily lives to experience the big self. There's ample opportunity within ourselves to experience the small self. That's what we are now. The challenge is to take us to the higher self, the higher consciousness. So when can we experience this self in order to feel the intensity of the divine, the higher consciousness?
Like brother
That
said,
intensity,
sorry.
hello?
Like brother said earlier, as in Seva, we can experience the big S self. Yeah.
Yes, you can do seva to experience the self, provided that seva is well coordinated between you and the divine in you, and you are in that energy level when nothing else matters but the seva, and the seva is done selflessly, and you have put within yourself a certain discipline, and that discipline is full of love. You don't mingle with anybody else, any thoughts, distractions. And as you perform the whole day, or 1 hour, or whatever the time, or whatever the hour, you can feel the connection between you and the higher self. But if you do not have that kind of a discipline, or the connection, or the will to be with the divine, then you will also do the seva and be satisfied, but it's connected to the lower self. Lower self means the small self. You come back and you have said, I've done it, and a lot of I comes in there, and you do not release the I. That means that good word, good effort, but you have touched the sensitivities of the big self, and you have enjoyed it, but you have not got into it. I'll give you an example. Okay, recently I was at an event where the energy level was very, very high, and there were hundreds of people who are going around a place where the place was very well energized with heavy chanting. So when you go in, automatically you will become silent. And then after the silence, you are thinking of the divine. You see up there, the divine, whoever the divine is, and you get connected, and you're led with that mantra. And then you go on being with the whole group. Everyone is acting in synchronized manner. No distraction, but fully attending to the prayer or the mantra. And the inner self seems to be yearning earnestly for whatever purpose they've come, but definitely it's for divine connection. And that goes on for 1 hour. 1 hour you go round and round and round, and all that 1 hour, your mind is tuned to just one point, and you are eagerly waiting for what? Blessings, bliss. You're not conscious of it, but you're walking in that place. You're walking in that place. So this goes on until there's a bell. The bell rings and you stop. And then there is a prayer, and then you disperse. Okay. There are about a few hundred people who are going around there. And the magic is the energy. The other magic is the discipline. The other magic is everybody is synchronized. You cannot see anybody laughing or, but they all seem to be so solemn. Everybody is solemn for that period. And then when you break off, you come out and you go into other areas. Now, what happens then? You are at that energy level, but the energy will slowly get diluted as you mix with people. So what am I trying to tell you is, we ordinary mortals can reach that self in an area where the energy level is high. That is due to the preparation and the prayers conducted there, the energy level is high. Next thing is, if you do not have such a place, you can create a place in your own house. Create that energy level by your prayers, by your discipline, and plenty of love and affection for Swami. And you do it with tears, you do it with earnest desire, nothing else matters. You have created in your house. And then you sit down. That energy level is there. You are getting closer and closer to Swami. Maybe you're already one with Swami. And you might just ignite the connection with a few bhajans or any other conversations. You just carry on. And then you are at that level. So what transpires there is what you wish to transcend. That will take place as you are connected, how you feel about it. And a few things may come out good for what you had sat down for. It's certain it blossoms during the day. That is how it seems to operate at our level. It is not continuous, but it is like spasmodic. It will come when your energy level is high. It will leave when the energy level is low. So what is our sadhana? Our sadhana must be to live that level, always to be consistent. How can we do that as ordinary mortals with all kinds of professions that we are living with? That is the challenge. We hold Swami's hand and we walk along that path to keep the energy level high through our own discipline, so that we are always at the higher self. Another thing which I've observed about the higher self is this. Everyone who wants to experience the higher self during the day, in my opinion, is when they speak with love on whatever has to be said in a tone which is very loving, which is very honest, which has got peace in it, and which has got all the ingredients of sincerity. As you speak in that tone to others, the other person who hears you gets elevated. That elevation is caused by the higher self in you, which has been connected to the third person. If you practice that and see for yourself, you can tell yourself that for that moment, you are divine, you are Swami. You don't have to blast it or inform the whole world, but it's your personal observation of how you can do. Once again, the next corner you turn, certain thing happens and you might lose that self and you become an ordinary soul again. And you got to make sure that you do not get into that kind of a situation. And even if you do, that you must rise to the occasion and come out of it so that the self is always maintained. Big question. How to get the self to be permanently consistent? That is realization. Once you're self-realized, then you get to that level. So that is what we are all working to. We are yearning for it. It takes time. Some who are very young might be able to get it. Some who are much older. A good example is in the Hindu scriptures. There is a great saint whose name is Appar, Manika Vasagar. Manika Vasagar. 4 years old. And there was another man, another saint. His name is Trinyana Karasu. He was 74. A great Bhaktar, Murugan Bhaktar. The great Bhaktas, and they do not know, he does not know that he has got spiritual qualities in him. He speaks like an ordinary person and he moves around, he's old, and he is like nothing. But these two people here are great saints. So one instance, this Appar or Manika Vasagar was lifted in a palanquin. And the people were praising him and singing songs in praise of him. Trinyana Karasu was one of the persons who was in the holding the palanquin. He's telling in his heart, I have done so much of service. I've done that, I've done this. This boy is only 4 years old and he's getting all the honor and I haven't got. Appar heard it. He is divine. And he tried to play with this Trinyana Karasu. He asked him, who is this man by the name of Trinyana Karasu? Trinyana Karasu got a shock. I'm just trying to tell you the divine play, the divine play. So one knows that he is already realized. The other is realized but does not know that he is realized. Why he doesn't know? Why is that he's realized? He will do a lot of things which an ordinary person cannot do, and people just fall at his feet and they wait for hours for his to welcome him to their houses and all. That is the old man, Trinyana Karasu. Whereas the young boy has the divinity in him for certain qualities which are very magical and special, and people have recognized that fast. So we have instances of realization in different ways, and very difficult to very difficult to satisfy a person whether he is realized or not. How to tell Trijnana Karasu you are realized? You can't tell him that. And yet he does not know that he has the power. It goes back to the saying. It goes back to the saying of Hanuman. There's a strong statement about Hanuman. Hanuman does not know his strengths. He used to think that the sun is a ball to play with and he'll fly towards the sun. He does not know his strengths. Like that, there are a lot of us here who have these unknown strengths. That unknown strength is your vigorous faith in Swami that has led you to that level. But you yourself did not know that you have that strength. So that self, the bigger self in you, is working. And God willing, you will become like upper of Trijnana Samandar, or you remain like Trijnana Karasu. Both are divine. Sairam, brother.
Thank you, Brother Rama, for your sharing. So now I think we need to get Sister Jeannie to share the other half of the presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we stop after the Sarva Priyananda's talk, so we'll continue from there. Give me a second. All right, we finished. Yeah, we finish here. So we now go to the second point. Brother Billy, we go to the second point,
Yep.
which is what is the way to happiness according to Swami? Yeah, Brother Manoj gave an answer here. Brother Manoj.
Yeah, Saira. Mr.
Saira.
Swami's very powerful statement says that true happiness as per Swami is union with God. So that is very profoundly he has given a speech also, talking about what is truth, what is his speech on the Onam day, which is today. He's given the speech, and there he says that happiness is the union with God, because if we have anything which gives us joy, if it is worldly, it is going to diminish or it is going to change. But once we get union with the God, because God is the only thing which is permanent, and if any permanent thing is there and which is source of all joy, then you will be having the way to happiness is to be the Swami itself. So these are the things which Swami tries to explain in this lecture, that for happiness we have to go inward and we have to search for our own identity, and that identity can only be obtained by truth. He says Satyam is the only thing which can give you truth, because anything which is not Satya, I mean, like in worldly things, we say that this table, this house, everything, we say it is truth, but one day it is going to be destroyed. One day it is going to decay. But it's only the God is the permanent thing which remains. And once we stick to that Satya, then our happiness will not have any changes in our life, and we'll be happy always. This is what I am talking about on this side.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, I wonder if Sister Kamlesh is here.
I don't see her name there. No,
All
I
right.
don't.
Okay. So all right. So she has given this. So I will just read it out. Okay. She said, developing faith in the Atma principle and loving it earnestly is real worship. The Atma is the one and only loved one for man. Feel that it is more lovable than any object here and hereafter. That is the true adoration man can offer to God. This is what the Vedas teach. The Vedas do not teach the acceptance of a bundle of frightfully hard rules and restrictions. They do not hold before men prison house. They do not hold before men prison house where man is shut in by the bars of cause and effect. They teach us that there is one who is the sovereign behind all these rules and restrictions, one who is the core of each object, each unit of energy, each particle or atom, and one whose orders alone, the five elements, ether, air, water, and earth, do operate. Love him, adore him, worship him, say the Vedas. This is the grand philosophy of love as elaborated in the Vedas. The supreme secret is that man must live in the world where he's born like the lotus leaf, which, though born in the water, floats upon it without being affected or wetted by it. Of course, it is good to love and adore God with a view to gain some valuable fruit either here or hereafter. But since there is no fruit or object more valuable than God or worthwhile than God, the Vedas advise us to love God with no touch of desire in our minds. Love, since you must love for love's sake. Love God, since whatever he can give is less than he himself. Love him alone, with no other wish or demand. Dharmaja, the eldest of the Pandava brothers, as depicted in the Mahabharata, is the ideal of this type of lover. When he lost to his enemies his vast empire, which includes all India, and had perforce to live in caves among the Himalayan ranges with his consort Draupadi, she asked him one day, "Lord, you are undoubtedly the topmost among those who follow unwaveringly the path of Dharma. Yet, how is it that such terrible calamity happened to you?" She was stricken with sorrow. Dharmaja replied, "Draupadi, do not grieve. Look at this Himalayan range. How magnificent, how glorious, how beautiful, how sublime. It is so splendid a phenomenon that I love it without limit. It will not grant me anything, but it is my nature to love the beautiful, the sublime. So here too I'm residing with love. The embodiment of this sublime beauty is God. This is the meaning and significance of the love for God. God is the only entity that is worth loving. This is the lesson that the age-long search of the Bharatiyas has revealed. This is the reason why I'm loving him. I shall not wish for any favor from him. I shall not pray for any boon. Let him keep me where he loves to keep me. The highest reward for my love is his love. Draupadi, my love is not an article in the market. Dharmaja understood that love is a divine quality and has to be treated so. He taught Draupadi that love is the spontaneous nature of those who are ever in the awareness of the Atma. The love which has Atma as its basis is pure and sublime. She took this from the Satya Sai Vahini. This passage is about love, not about love for God, no? Like Swami said, love is God, God is love. So yeah, it's a good reminder for us to practice this kind of love. Yeah, anybody would like to comment on this?
Yeah, Saram, I think beautiful explanation. The highest reward for my love is his love. Rather than my love, it is God's love that is the highest. I mean, he hardly thought of his love. I think it's a beautiful.
Swami has also said, love itself is love itself is the reward, no? Yeah. Love is its own reward. Yeah, he said it like this. Love is its own reward. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, I think I can just give a practical example. Like nowadays, we have in the schools and everything, for any small achievement, a child is given a reward, a certificate or something like that, and is honored. So what happens is that slowly the notion becomes that I must I'm studying to get this reward or get this position or get this job. And that is degrading our education system, because what it says is that the knowledge which you gain, that is the biggest reward of your education. The theory, the practical use which you would use, that is the reward. It's not that the salary, it's not the job, it's not the package which people get. Actual reward is the knowledge. But what happens is when we shift our attention from the getting the knowledge to the rewards, and then what happens that your concentration towards development reduces, and you feel scared, you feel feared, you feel a lot of worldly things which a true seeker will not have. And that is why it is very much required in today's world that we have to be happy with what is the core result of our sadhana. And the core result of our sadhana is God Himself. It is not that meditation, it is not that peacefulness, it is not that good health, it is not the I got a job, it is not that I need something which is fulfilled. And the moment we shift our sadhana, the moment we shift our focus on the God itself, then other things becomes immaterial, because when we have God with us, He will give us what is needed for me. And that's where the surrender comes, and we don't feel any fear, because we accept whatever comes in our life the way it is as a gift, and we try to remain happy with that. So this is a very important aspect, which a practical example is our education system, that normally people go for exams and everything, or these competitions, that okay, I'm the best, I got this gold medal, I got this package of salary and everything. But that way what happens, of course, the growth of the science will come, but then it's somewhere the full enthusiasm, full power which a soul can exert in gaining the knowledge, it reduces, because then our focus shifts sometimes to the goal. And the moment it shifts to the goal, the rewards, and the moment it shifts to the rewards, our goal becomes distance from us. So this is what we have, what it is said, that we need the God Himself, nothing else. And then when we have God on our side, everything will be added to it. Sai Ram.
Thank you, brother. Yes, anyone else? Oh, if no, then we move on. Okay, okay, from myself, regarding this happiness, real happiness comes from a love that is God-oriented. When others are happy because of us, this happiness rebounds and makes us happy too. Such happiness can be called bliss. The way to happiness is the sincere giving of joy to others, sincere giving. And the Swami says that self-sacrifice is love, and God is love, and love alone can lead to Him. So we learn that true happiness is found in acts of self-sacrifice, completely selfless acts. Just now we were talking about doing seva. I think when we do seva and we are able to see Swami in those we serve, then that is the time we are acting from the big self. Yeah. But unless you are able to do that, seva is just seva, just helping someone. Yes. And to continue, the basis for our actions must be to make Swami happy. For Swami says, its criterion must be the beloved first. Beloved first here, I am wondering if it means love for God. And our objective must be your happiness, not mine, which is unselfish love. And Swami also says the way to happiness is the forgetting of oneself and the remembering of God, your Sai Krishna. Yeah, like just now we talked about the real self, forgetting about our own self. So here I also found some quotations from Swami on way to happiness. Swami says, the more you develop love, the more you experience happiness, and the closer you go to ultimate bliss. He also said, true and permanent happiness cannot be attained in the physical world. It can be experienced only in the state of turiya, which is union with God. And bliss is not present in physical worldly objects. Yes. And happiness lies in working hard and serving society. We can experience peace and happiness only when we help the poor and needy. So these few quotes were from Swami. Okay, Swami mentioned about atheism, atheists and theists. So here there are some positive facts about atheists. I think last week one sister said something about how is it like what we portrayed last week was more on the negative side. So here we found some facts about atheists. It says atheism does not hold the notion that they exist as a parasitic rival to theism. And atheists can be indifferent rather than hostile to religious beliefs. It does not mean that they're hostile to religious belief, but just indifferent. And atheists can be more moral or more attuned to natural beauty than many theists. And natural beauty, as we know, is God's creation. You see, so it makes a lot of sense here. And atheists have no more reason to be pessimistic or depressive than those who are religious. This is very true also. So this question came, can atheists describe themselves as spiritual but not religious?
Yeah, I think, sister, if there's somebody is atheist, means at least when in the word, if we say, if this is mango, so it means, and if I'm atheist, I don't like, I said that don't know there is no mango or something like that. So it means I'm identifying that there's something called mango which I'm not accepting it, isn't it? But if there is something which is not there at all, if somebody says that God is not there at all, but there are some people who say God is there, means we can tell something which is not there, means there has to be a probability of that thing happening there, isn't it? Like if the mango is existing for somebody, but I'm saying it is not there, like in my country mango is, so it is not there. But the concept mango has come with some reality, isn't it? In the same way the God is there, maybe some people don't say that it is God because they don't experiment it, they don't see it, they want a proof or something. That's why they say God is not there. But Swami has said that at least he's believing that God is not there, means he's confronting, he's confirming that there is some identity which is called God.
Yes.
So atheists and theists are they are just opposite side of the same coin, but one is negating, one is saying yes, it is there.
Okay. So if no one else, then I will share this story with you all. Okay. Okay, it's taken from the website called Awakening Self, and this story is very illuminating. It helps us to understand the nature of our true self easier. So, okay, we shall go to it. What is your true self? This looks like Darwin's monkey, in contemplation. So, okay, it says, the author says, one of the most important questions in personal and spiritual growth is, what is your true self? The answer is elusive, but the question is essential to ask ourselves, to contemplate and to discover. So you may be thinking, hey, I don't really know what my true self means. How is it different than just plain old me? Sit with that question a moment. Ask yourself, what is my true self? You may begin to have a feeling in your body, a vision comes to mind, or hear some words that speak to who you truly are. Some part of you knows that there is a core essence, a deeply real, empowered, joyful you within that longs to express in your own unique and authentic way. Then the small s self. Often we are stuck in what I call our small s self. It is what we refer to as me, the personality or ego, as well as the body. Our self is what functions in the world for us most of the time. It drives the car, it pays the bills, it cooks the meals. It has a very important role in our day-to-day tasks and getting along in the world. But the self gets caught up in thinking. It can easily get stuck on a train of thought that disturbs our inner peace and also significantly limits us. The self has a lot of limiting beliefs about who we are, what we are capable of, and what is possible in life. Those thoughts are usually based on past experiences that are like old computer programs still running in us decades after they were installed. The self bases a lot of what it perceives, experiences, and feels from the perspective of those old programs. It is stuck in the past and often stuck in unhealthy ways of being. Now, the capital S self, which is the true self. Your capital S self, however, transcends the personality, the ego, the body, and all the thoughts, beliefs, opinions, and even emotions that we experience. It is your divine nature, your essence within, and it is not limited by anything you experience in your mind, heart, or body. The self is founded in pure potentiality. Just about anything is possible with the self. It doesn't look at life with limitation, judgment, worry, or resentment. Those and most other emotions are based on past experiences. The self is fully present, fully here in this moment, now and every moment. This is your true self. It is the quiet place within that watches the thoughts that arise, the emotions that wash through, the sensations that you experience in your body. Already whole and complete, there is great joy in experiencing your true self because it is authentic, real, and already full and complete as it is. It is already whole, loving, and loved simply because it doesn't separate itself from that love and wholeness. The true self is immersed in oneness. This may be a completely new idea to you, but when we take ourselves beyond the limitations of thought, emotion, and sensation, a whole new way of experiencing life emerges. Freedom within and joy are possible. And we discover what truly fulfills us, what gifts we have to share with this world, and the everyday blessings that life offers us. It is a journey. Discovering and embodying the true self is a journey. It unfolds more and more every day, not perfectly, not instantly, like taking a pill. It is a process. We will still feel our feelings and have our everyday experiences. It doesn't make life magically perfect, but it does shift us into a state where we can embrace whatever is, stay rooted in our center, and find peace and happiness in the simplest of moments right now. We become grounded in the truth of who we are, to know ourselves deeply and to understand life deeply. Again, ask yourself, what is my true self? Rather than try to figure out the answer, just sit with the question, feel into it, let it simmer within you. Only you can truly discover that answer within. As you seek, as you ask, you begin the process and you initiate your true self to reveal itself to you. Allow it to happen, pay attention, and open to receive it. This is the end of the article. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so any comments?
This is a very nice article.
Yes, yes.
I think it summarizes the topic itself. How
yes. Yeah.
To find it, to realize yourself is a journey, bit by bit.
Yes. So we managed to do it in time. So sorry for group 4, we took up their time today. Yeah. So any comments from anyone? We still have about 10 minutes left.
I think what is my true self? Actually, same as what Swami said or Ramama said. Who am I? Who am I? Actually, it's the same. I think he phrased it the other way. You know, what is my true self? Who am I? It's actually the meditation way of going into the contemplation and then into meditation.
Yes.
But the process he explained very clear. And the process, how it go, and then finally reach the true self. So it's a lot of sadhana need to do. Sarah.
Yes. Thank you, Brother James.
Silent sister, I just wanted to say that we said you touched one point that it's the present moment, something like that.
Yes.
So there was one person, they were both traveling on a train, and suddenly one person comes, and then they both start talking. So this man started talking, I was born here, I lived here, I have so many children, I have worked this is my salary, this is my family, this is my house, this is my everything. And then he started talking, oh, I'm going to do this, I'll become like this, I have this plan, this factory, this work, and this, and I will have children, grandchildren, all those things. But after some time, he exhausted his future and he exhausted his past. And when both past and present were exhausted, he became speechless and he was just looking and admiring at the scenery in the train or something like that. So this is what the present is, because mostly we are caught up in our past stories and future plans. The moment we come to the present, our sound, our voice becomes silent. And then we start enjoying the present moment. And this is what happens when you are in sadhana and we are in sadhana, that when we sit in the meditation, old thoughts will come, or some emotion will come and it trigger up what you're going to do in the future. But everything calms down when you start living in the present. And then the moment you start living in the present, you lose your identity with your body, because normally we say that you concentrate on a breath or something, and then finally suddenly some sound comes and you wake up. I had a very nice meditation or something like that. So that living in the present itself is also living with the God, because you have forgotten the past and the future, and you are in the present. So this is what also is a process which he can, as you said, it's a gradual process. The more we do meditation and the more we do lose our identity, I think we are closer coming to our bigger self, and we are trying to connect to it. So that what happens, that the world loses its grip, our thoughts and future plans loses its grip, and we become in the present. At the same time, we become more conscious, and that is when our energy level, our strength, as Brother Ramachandra was saying, that will increase, and that is what we get when we do these sort of sadhanas. So the purpose of all this exercise in satsang is that you never know, one point of somebody's sentence, it just triggers and it creates the feeling and the thought level to think that, oh, this is what I have to do. And finally you start doing that, and slowly we reach our goals. So this is what I feel, that slow and steady progress is from small S to bigger S. And let's enjoy this journey, because we are here for a very short time. Maybe some may lose its identity in a bigger self, or maybe they will not remember us, or maybe we get a momentary feeling of the bigger S when we are in meditation. But best thing is to enjoy every moment and live in bliss, that be on the right track. This is what I feel should be should be our motto to live in this world. Sai Ram.
Thank you.
Sairam, this reminds me of a bhajan. Love is my form, truth is my breath. Bliss is my food. Sairam.
Thank you, Sister Sairam. Yeah, so all right. So Brother Billy, where do we go from here?
Oh yeah, I think I still got another probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
feedback some. Yeah.
Yes.
Sairam, I'd just like to go back to the point we discussed earlier. The self does not compare, does not seek security of any kind, does not see even itself. So if we go back to the PDF Brother Billy sent by Swami Sarva Priyananda talk on YouTube, the unattached self, and if we go to the 7th paragraph, awareness is not attached. He says here that the technical term from Advaita Vedanta is Upadhi. Upadhi is when something is present near something else and appears to transfer its quality onto that something else. An example is holding a red flower against a clear crystal. On the other side, the crystal looks red. Put a yellow flower, the crystal looks yellow. Put a pink flower, the crystal looks pink. Even when it looks red or yellow or pink, the crystal is actually clear. In exactly the same way, the I am, the awareness, when the body is present and I am not aware of myself as the body, nor of myself as consciousness, just like the crystal becomes identified with the red color, I am, this awareness, becomes identified with the body, and I feel I am the body and the mind obscuring the true self. That is the upadhi. So when we go back to the same sentence where we were all a bit perplexed. So what it means is when Swami says, when the statement says that the self does not see even itself, so it means upadhi. I think that's the answer.
Yes.
Sai.
Yeah. Yes, upadhi. We are most of the time in upadhi.
Can I go back to Billy's when he brought up the point of what got the fire and saving somebody or something like that, saving the boy in the fire. I think Billy will remember about Tan Alec from Tanjong Sipak when his house shop on fire. He just rushed in and saved his mother, and he got himself badly burned. And later, of course, he was interviewed by Swami. We were together with him that time. So you can see God is fearless. God is love. So when the fire happened, the mother inside there, so Tan Alec only think Uncle Tan Alec, like you can say Uncle Tan Alec. He only thought of his mother, the love for his mother. And then he never think of his body self, He was thinking, fearless. He forgot about his body and just rushed forward out of love and fearless and saved the mother. I think that is another where you experience the big self, Because Swami said, God is love, and because it's love for the mother, right? And then God is the Atma is fearless, so he also experienced the Atma itself, the fearless, because actually he to him his body is not important. It's saving the mother more important. Maybe Billy can add a little bit about the experience or what you know.
Yeah, in fact, we reenacted that particular experience of Tan Alec in a drama itself, in front of Swami, where there was a gas tank, the gas tank was on fire, and he carried the gas tank and run out so that it doesn't explode or something like that. So it reminds me of another story whereby this gentleman was well dressed walking, then suddenly he saw a calf, a baby cow, struggling in the mud trying to come out, and they were onlookers, they couldn't do anything, and but what he did was he just jumped into the puddle there and then saved the cow, brought him out, So they asked him, why, your clothes is now so dirty, things like that. He said, well, I never thought of that. The only thing is that when I hear the cry of the cow, it pains me. So he has expanded himself into the big self, that the consciousness, so this is what I would think is, probably explain a bit about the self.
Yeah, actually, in the Bhavika stories, one of the stories was about the scorpion and how the man saved the scorpion, and yet the scorpion stung him, and yet he tried to save him again. So when somebody asked him why did he do that, he said, it is the nature of the scorpion to sting, but it is my nature to save. So it's very beautiful, that story. Yeah. It's actually our nature deep within us. That is our nature to do good, to save. Sairam.
Okay, thank you, Sister Boo, for the beautiful presentation. Next week, the presentation is by Group 4. The title is, what is the best way to reach God? Am I correct, Sister Tara? Okay, so
yes,
I think
it's the easiest way to reach God.
What is the easiest way? So this is a session that we should not miss. Okay, so any feedback from you all before we end the session?
మీరు ఎక్కడ పోయినప్పటికీ నేను వెంట ఉన్నాను.
You may go anywhere, Bhagavan is with you.
మీకు ఏ విధమైనటువంటి బాధలు వచ్చినా నేను చూసుకుంటాను.
Bhagavan will take care of all your difficulties.
జీవితంలో ఏది హ్యాపీ లేదు.
Nothing is happy in this
అంత అప్పటికప్పటికి వస్తుంది, అప్పటికప్పుడు అంత పాసింగ్ క్లౌడ్స్.
Things come then and there itself and they pass on.
కానీ పర్మనెంట్ అనేటువంటి హ్యాపీ ఒక దైవత్వంతో మాత్రమే ఉంటుండాలి.
The permanent happiness is with God only.
ఇది హార్ట్ టు హార్ట్, లవ్ టు లవ్.
It is a connection, heart to heart, love to love.
ఇదే మీరు పెంచుకోవాలి.
This you should develop.
ఇది మీ యొక్క నిజమైనటువంటి యొక్క భక్తి ప్రపత్తులకు సరైన నిదర్శనము.
This is the true proof of your devotion and sincerity.
ఎందుకు వరి చేయాలి?
Why should you worry?
What is the shape of worry?
What is the shape of worry?
It is mental created fear only.
Worry means mentally created fear only.
ఈ వరికి ఏ మాత్రము రూపం లేదు.
Worry has no form.
నీవు క్రియేట్ చేసుకుంటున్నావు.
It is only your creation.
మాకు ఎట్ట స్వామి, ఇంట్లో అనేక చిక్కులు ఉంటాయి, మాకు అనేక బాధలు ఉంటున్నాయి, సంసారంలో చాలా వ్యతలు ఉంటున్నాయి, మేము ఎట్ట సుఖంగా ఉండడానికి వీలవుతుందంటారు.
You may say, Swami, how is it possible to be happy all the time? We have got our own problems, our own worries there.
పోనీ వరి చేస్తే మన ప్రాబ్లం పోతుంటాయా?
Is worry a solution to a problem?
పోవటం లేదే.
No.
కనుక ఎందుకు వరి చేసి ప్రయోజనం?
Then why should you worry? What is the fun?
హ్యాపీగా ఉండు.
Be happy now.
ఈ హ్యాపీని నీ వరిని దూరం చేస్తుంది.
And this happiness will keep you that worry far off.
కనుక నీ వరి చేయకూడదు.
Never worry.
ఏదొచ్చినా కానీ ఇది భగవత్ ప్రసాదం.
Take it as God's gift, whatever may happen.
So with that, let's end with this affirmation as given by Swami as our closing prayer. Swami reminded us that we must always affirm this. I'm God. I'm not different from God. I'm the Akhanda Para Brahman, indivisible, supreme, absolute. I'm Satchit Ananda, being, awareness, bliss. Grief and anxiety can never affect me. I'm ever content. Fear can never enter me. So with these words, thank you everyone for coming for the next satsang, and we look forward to seeing all of you next week. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam.